Congratulations on the film, first of all. I said it in
Thank you
person to
so
tell you
much.
right. I it's sort of a weird question because you get it a lot, but I have a reason to ask. When someone asks like why? Why do why this film? Why any film, honestly? But
Yeah.
especially after how big a deal the first film is, right? And it wins an Oscar and everyone has something to say. And suddenly everyone wants a meeting and they want to offer you movies you don't want to do and all the things that, it's a good problem to have. What makes this particular script or idea even the one that you go, well, thanks for offering this, but I want this and I want money and I want time and I want actors and I want everything. Why this one especially? And for good reason, obviously. But I'm just curious what makes you go, this is the one.
I wish it was sort of a strategic decision. It's often hard to say. I have at any one time, like a few sort of, I always talk about this and I always sound like such a kind of manic pixie dream writer. I have like lots of people, I think, daydreams. I've had
Yeah.
daydreams all my life, but they're not daydreams. They're incredibly vivid parallel universes. And I live in them as much as I live in my everyday life and always have. And so Saltburn is one of the places that I've been, living in really myself for like 7 or 8 years. And whether it's because Oliver is the most persistent, because he is persistent, um, it felt like it was just the thing that I wanted. It was the thing that wanted to come out. And well, look, as for the offers and all of that thing, that stuff is incredible. But I said really early on, like, don't tell me, don't tell me about it, because more than anything, I'm obsessed with movies and I'm obsessed with filmmakers. And there were people that I've admired my entire life. There were kind of offers that I just couldn't even dream of. And the thing was, is I know that, I'm best, I think best doing the sort of things that I have been doing. So I asked that not to be told, which I think was right. And then, but it's interesting with Saltburn. I didn't know quite why, because I don't work thematically, because all themes sort of are something that emerge often later. I think it just makes sense that this was the thing I wanted to write during COVID.
I mean,
Because it's a film about just how completely crazy you become if you're not able to touch the thing you want to touch and
yeah,
get inside it. And
totally.
it's also preoccupied with bodily fluids and why it feels extra transgressive and sexy is because for 2 years we weren't even allowed to breathe on each other.
Yep.
So much like,
It,
the sorts of things that happen in this movie. So I think that honestly is probably why it was the thing that I wanted to write about most.
yeah.
But it's hard to know at the time. It's just the thing that you're interested in,
Yeah. Well,
I guess.
that's also having the ability to go, I'm interested in this and I want to pursue it. And I'm lucky enough that I can. And there's a fair chance that someone will want to make it. And that speaks to the talent of it all. But you never know, obviously. But
But also I think the way that I work is kind of I'm sort of the opposite. I don't want to be.
yeah.
I actually need kind of uh, I don't want to be pandered to. I don't want to be given like a crazy amount of money to go and make a vanity pro. I don't want to do any of that. The reason that I do it the way I do it, I write the thing
Yeah.
with no one knows what it's going to be, and then I give it to my agents, and I say to them, this is the thing I want to make. If anyone else is interested, this is the thing in all its,
Well, I think it's
whatever it is.
yeah.
Then that way what you do find is that people do have the ability to say no, because they do, and they do have the ability to price it sensibly.
Yeah.
You're not having that thing where they're like, fuck, you can have anything you want, you can do anything you want. I was lucky that the things that I want to make always are reasonably contained. Obviously we had a bigger budget on this and we had On Promising a Woman, but it's not a huge budget movie by
That's
any
awesome.
means, Saltburn. That's important to me.
Oh yeah, no, I mean you can see where the money's going. Also, I think it is just funny when you think of like the person who reads it, who's in a position to pay for it. You almost see like a video game like dollar sign changing in their head, and as they're reading, like, ooh, this is classy. Okay, there's a bath. Okay, the money's going down now.
Yeah,
And then you see it goes
yeah,
back up and
yeah.
down. And I feel like
And that's
that's the kind of life
good.
you want to be. Exactly.
And that's how you're able to make the thing you want to make.
Yeah.
Because what you haven't done is taken a deal, for example, for like bajillions of dollars,
Yeah.
and then they don't like the thing that you've made for them or whatever it is. That can be really oppressive. And so I prefer to be like, this is the thing. If you want to see somebody tonguing a drain, and you think it's going to be super fucking hot and also kind of squirm inducing, then like this is going to be the movie for you. And if it's not, we don't have to make it. Like, and that's when you find your people. It's also how you find your HODs and your cast, because you give them the script and they just say like, either they're like, I'm not sure, or they're like, oh, I am so in.
Yeah.
And
No.
that's the thing. Everyone in this movie was like so in.
Oh, you get the sense Barry was like already on set. You're like, we didn't make one yet. I just gave you the script. How are you here already? Like, I
Well,
was first,
we
like,
always with Barry that we're trying to keep his clothes on.
yeah. Well, I interviewed him last year for the other film, and he was, like, I wore like a Met shirt or something because they had just lost. And he was like, let's talk about sports. Like, you tell he's like, I want to do anything a little different than what I'm supposed to be doing. And first row,
And also his, sorry.
no, I was just saying, like, being in the first row at the first screening at Telluride, you can tell, and like you were saying, it's working for some people, it's not working for others. You can just feel the aura in the room of just like, I'm having a blast. The person to my left is having a blast. The person to my right, the person behind me is having a shit time, but I kind of love it. Like, now I get to live with someone, because like if everyone was just like, he's tonguing that drain and no one finds this weird, you'd start to wonder about yourself a little bit. I think it's good that you're like, okay, good. This is transgressive, and I like that it is, but it is bothering someone.
Yeah, and it's bothering. It's anything that like bothers us, I think, is important.
Yeah.
That is an important thing to feel not just, it's so easy for everything to be viewed now from a kind of purely like moral standpoint, or a political standpoint, or a thematic standpoint, or or a kind of like, where does this sit in the canon of movies? It's so easy to sort of like death by a thousand cuts, all of these things. But the truth of it is that you're always aiming to make something that makes people feel something. Yeah. And that's difficult. It's difficult to make, it's difficult to make people scream.
Well, I mean, if you, I joke the worst review you could ever get from someone is they leave the theater and go, so what are we gonna eat for dinner? Like, you'd much rather someone be like, I can't tell you what I didn't like. Obviously, you want someone to be like, I can't wait to tell you why it's amazing. But as long as you get in there and get a response, because otherwise, why did you do anything? Why did you need time, money, and actors to go do something if not for a response?
It's not for a response. And I think that there are always the sort of people who, there's a sort of, it's always funny the kind of way things happen. Sometimes it's like, this wasn't even remotely transgressive. This didn't go far enough. This was disgusting. And, it's like every person, everyone is like, I didn't see what all the fuss is about. It's like, and you just get everyone kind of, but that's the thing, is that you just want people to be like, I just want people to go to the movies and like laugh and squirm and be excited and feel shaken up afterwards. That's the exciting thing, and that's the aim. And so if you can do that, if you can make people feel in love with Felix, in love with Oliver, in love with Elspeth, if we can all want to be in that house and want to fuck all of them and want to kill all of them, then that's like,
well,
that's the
and that's what I think you do so well here, is that there are people who are doing awful things. There are people who are doing fairly innocuous things. It's very hypnotic in the sense of like, I don't know that I want to be their friend, but I want to be around. I want to be in the room, and I want to see this happen. And I think that's what both films, especially, but I think that you do so well, is making it clearly like, this means something to me. This is personal. I want to make this, but I also want you to have an experience, because like we were saying, why else do it? Like the joke that I remember Kevin Smith always made was like, it's very funny that I go, I have the most personal thing in my life. I need to say, I need $5 million in Ben Affleck to like pour a piece of my heart out. And it's true though. Like you sat there for however long it took to write it. It takes that long to get it ready. You're on set for weeks. You're editing the film. You're waiting for it to come out. This is years of your life to say something. And you're like, and I needed Barry to take his clothes off to do it. Like that was just a reason. Like I had to have that happen. It's the end result is so well.
But it's a film about sex.
Exactly. Well, if you didn't,
all right. About sex,
yeah.
class, and so you can't, not get into that stuff. It's like, because real sex, real power struggles, real kind of awful, creepy, kind of interesting class dynamics, it needs to be awkward. It is funny.
Yeah.
I think we're still, it's interesting that we still expect to be told what we're supposed to think.
Yeah.
We still need to be told who we're supposed to root for. Yeah. We have this idea that there's some kind of like, there's some sort of like moral thing to take away, but I don't know. I don't think that's useful. I think it's more useful to give people the kind of experience so that they can kind of work stuff out for themselves. To me, it's very clear.
Yeah. No, and it's also just not interesting when someone tells you here's the rigid walls, and if you're on either side of the wall, you're wrong or bad or weird. But also, I think you get out there, you find a specificity that's not there. Like I think if you make like the very down the middle like movie that wants to be sexy, for lack of a better word, it's not, because you're like, I've never done that, and like I've never done a lot of things in the film, but you watch it and you go, I feel like it's more likely that that's happened. As wild as some of the things are, because it's so seemingly transgressive, you go, that's much more specific. And I know that it's true to that person. For all the things that movie, and like I'm vague on purpose, there's not a thing that I think you go, that makes no sense for the character. Every single thing makes perfect sense.
And also that doesn't make sense as part of the Gothic tradition. Like I've said this a lot, but this scene, there's a scene, that happens in this, that people are, that is, not just shocking, but it's devastating and funny and mortifying and pathetic and romantic. It's, it's very like, it's maybe a bit confronting, but it happens in Wuthering Heights.
Yeah.
It's also something that it's happened. It's part, the Gothic tradition is like necessarily kind of, it's like a fairy tale. So I think that there's nothing in this that doesn't fit that emotional landscape.
Exactly. They put MGMT in it.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just like, I suppose it's about, does something make do I think it's funny? Like, for example, the last, I don't know, 15 minutes of this film, I think are the most outrageously comic parts of the whole film.
Agreed.
But it's interesting that, when people don't people don't acknowledge that it's funny, then it's quite tricky.
Yeah, no, I think as we sort of have to wrap, I remember, that was funny, at Telluride, the listening to people come up to you to talk about it. I was just enjoying listening to what people had to say, because you're like, oh wow, you had a take on this movie, or wow, this thing got you. It's, oh, you really have a lot to say about the cemetery. Okay, and maybe alcohol's involved, but like, I just love the way that people had something to say about it. And
people have something to say. They do, and they come and like physically grab me.
Yeah.
And I love that. Like, they're like, what did you do? Like, why did you, what has happened?
Like, I can live without the grabbing part.
I don't, well, not if it's diffusive, not if, obviously I'm not sort of, I don't mean it in that way. I think that there is an impulse, a physical impulse for people to come and say like, that was just like an experience. Thank you for that. And that is like thrilling to me. And I only want to connect with people in that way. And the people that love it and get it have already seen it 4 times.
Yeah.
And those are the people, that's it for me. It's just making it for the people that will hopefully come back and watch it again and again and again forever. And,
Oh yeah.
it's been such a thrill.
Listen, two in the last 5 years, whatever, times the flat circle, I don't remember. Two of the most memorable films I've seen, and two movies that I think I've recommended to more people than anyone else, which probably says something about me. But
It says that you're amazing, talented, gifted, clever, and a genius.
I mean, this was all I was leading up to. It was 15 minutes to get you to say that. I'm thrilled. Listen, it was just funny that last time, as we wrap up, it was all about how, like, we can't talk about the ending. People just have to go and experience. And this time you're like, I don't have to even say what's happening because people have already heard enough that I'm like, you've only heard half of it. Go see the rest.
It's got to be seen to be believed, I think.
Exactly. I think with the cup, it's perfect. It's like, yep, go see it, and you'll have
And
things.
goodbye. Yeah, who knows what's even in this cup? Oh, you do actually, because you still make to get the coffee.
That's true, but they don't. But also, thank you so much for doing this. One of my favorite parts of when I see that you're making something is I think I'm gonna get the chance to talk to you again because it's a delight.
Thank you so much, and thank you for your support. It means really a lot, huge amount. So I'm so grateful.
I'm there and I'm not going anywhere. Oh, thank you so much. My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.